Welcome to Athens Kaleidoscope. This is one of your producers, Nan Michael, and I'm sitting here with our other producer, Jane Penwell. We've got some good things in store for you today. We've got Nan's diatribe about old people jokes.
Of which I've sent you a few. They keep showing up in my inbox, and I don't know why.
We've got a little side trip to the Athens Museum, and we've got some little bit of cloggers, old cloggers, and we've got, let's see, what else? We've got a book review by our
Me?
Linda.
Linda,
No.
yeah, right. Took her a while.
Jane.
Yes. She's reverted back to Linda.
And got a trip to the Edith Head exhibit in Lancaster.
Ah, does everybody know who Edith Head was? All you people out there in TV land? She was a famous designer for the movies back in the, I think, 40s, 50s, maybe into the 60s, I'm not sure. But she was responsible for all those beautiful gowns you saw on Elizabeth Taylor. And
we get to see the gowns today.
Oh, yay.
And this footage comes courtesy of Alex Ross.
She's such a busy bee, that Alexa.
I know it.
She goes everywhere.
Marvelous. And I don't know, there may be something else that I've forgotten. But
yeah, well, we'll toss it in. Who knows? But Ann's rant doesn't go on for too long.
Well, you can put in about the rant. I asked some of my friends this week what they thought about old people humor. And, well, the two people I picked are offended by it, and they think that it would be nice if we respected older people as having wisdom, etc. And I guess I may have anticipated that, because I must admit, when Big Jim made a crack at old people on one of his shows, I felt offended. And Jim was sensitive enough to apologize almost right after he did it. But to me, being able to joke about something takes the sting out of it.
Exactly. For those people that are offended, I say, get a life. You're old, make it funny. You know, But yeah, I will say there are some times when I'm offended, and it's not jokes. Here's what offends me, and I have actually written. I love the TV show Project Runway because it's a group of designers competing, and they have to make an outfit in like 24 hours, you know, and then it goes down the runway, and the judges look at it and they decide whose is the best. Well, Michael Kors was one of the judges, and he was constantly saying, "Oh, that looks like Granny." I just wanted to smack him one. I'm somebody's granny, you know, come on. What's so horrible about that? And I bet you plenty of grannies buy his daggone stuff.
And you still watch it?
Oh, he's not on there anymore. He's gone. I'm sure it's not because of anything I wrote, but I did write in and complain about that and say,
oh, you good
stop,
for you.
Stop saying that. I'm a granny, and I buy my clothes from fairly nice places, and I don't look like somebody's old couch with a flowered, that he was always saying a granny or a granny's couch. And I've never had a flowered couch in my life.
Okay, I looked on Google under old people, and some of the descriptors is elderly, aged, older, senior, advanced in years, up in years, venerable. That's pretty good.
Ah, it's the venerable bead.
Long in tooth, gray-haired,
Long in tooth.
grizzled,
Grizzled.
hoary, Hoary, past one's prime, not as young as one was, ain't decrepit, dottery, not for this world,
Okay, stop.
senescent, senile, superannuated, informal getting on, past it over the hill, no spring chicken.
Hey, I confess, it's true.
Old ladies,
I'm no spring chicken.
dilapidated, broken down, beat up, run down, tumble down, ramshackle, decaying, crumbling, disintegrating,
Gee whiz.
worn out, shabby, threadbare, holy, Holey, torn, frayed, patched, tattered, mothy,
Oh, golly, heads.
ragged, more old-fashioned, out of date, outmoded, démodé, cast off, hand-me-down, and it's the opposite of when fashionable and modern.
I think Michael Kors read that. That's where he got his ideas from.
Bygone, past, former, olden, of old, previous, earliest, medieval, ancient, classical, primeval, primordial,
Good grief.
prehistoric, antediluvian.
For those of you that don't know, that means before the flood. You remember who had the flood, right? Noah.
Hackneyed, banal, trite, overused, overworked, tired, worn out. I can get with that. Stale, cliched, platitudinous.
Oh, gee whiz.
Ugh.
We have several sheets of these. I'm not going to be able to talk about anything when she gets done with this. I'm just going to be,
Imaginative, pedestrian,
oh, no.
stock, conventional, outdated, old-fashioned, outmoded, archaic, obsolete, oh my gosh, antiquated, and old hat, corny. Corny? What?
That could apply to anybody.
What?
You don't have to be old to be corny. You can be young and corny.
Long established, age old, familiar, established, customary, usual. For those just tuning in, we're looking at what Google calls old. Habitual, historic, folk, ancestral, old world. And the opposite is fresh, innovative, modern, progressive.
Well,
And used to express affection, the opposite is either familiarity or contempt. So there are the two sides of what people feel about aging. And it's interesting, Google quoted a New York Times article that was about a survey of people who thought how old you are when they call you old.
oh,
How old do you think old is?
older than me. 80. I'll say 80.
Most adults over 50 feel at least 10 years younger than their actual age.
Well, good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
The survey found, 1/3 of those between 65 and 74 said they felt 10 to 19 years younger. And those over 75 said they felt 20 years younger.
Good grief. So they're feeling younger as they're getting older. Surprise.
But it doesn't show.
No,
If you look.
sadly.
At what age does old age begin? Most of them said 68.
Huh, interesting.
Among those getting the senior citizen discount, say old age begins at 75. Most people under 30 think you're old by the time you hit 60.
Oh, well, I'm surprised they even said 60. My grandson, he's going to be 14 in just a couple weeks, so he's almost 14. We were talking about he's playing football at school, you know, blah, blah. So he's starting to think about college, and he was asking me about OU's football team. And I said, well, you could probably get on. I wouldn't be surprised. And so I said, well, you can go to OU. You can live with me. And he goes, Tiki, are you sure you'll still be alive? And I said, well, I can't be sure.
How old is he?
He's 14, almost 14.
Oh.
I said, well, I can't be sure, but the chances are good. Because my mother and my grandmother both lived to be 90, and my grandmother's mother lived to be 97. So I have a good genetic background for being around for a while. But, you know, I guess I must look that old to him, like he thinks I've got one foot in the grave, you know?
How old do you feel inside?
Oh, Lord. I don't know how to put an age. I don't feel old at all. But I don't know how to put an age on how I feel. I mean, middle-aged maybe? I mean, I couldn't say a number.
You feel younger than you look?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, me
Definitely.
too.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part about aging that I didn't expect. That internally, you don't feel any different than you ever did, hardly. I mean, there's a few things that I would say maybe are different, but not much. Pretty much, I feel the same as I always did internally. It's the external stuff starts to decay. What is that, decrepit, antiquated, over the hill? That's on your outside. On your inside, you don't have that.
Well, I think that humor does help with some denial.
Yeah,
We
right.
don't, yeah. And one of the things quoted was, all denial is not in Egypt.
That's for sure. And all denial is not bad. You know, I heard somebody say, and I think it was a psychologist said, people who are suffering from depression are actually seeing the world the way it is. And those of us who aren't suffering from depression have rose-colored glasses.
Oh, I just as soon not have heard that.
Sorry. I'm just going to keep my rose-colored glasses. You know, I don't want to, if it's that bad, I don't even want to see it. I'll just go around my little bubble. But that having been said, I think that that's true. I mean, we are in denial about a lot of things. You know, if you watch TV and really took to heart what the news has to say, you just have to go jump in the river. So you can't.
You can't.
Push
Thinking
it
isn't
away.
deep enough, really.
Right. I have to go down to Parkersburg, and jump off the bridge.
Now, they had old people write in responses to the article, and one of them said, when I tell my chronological age, new acquaintances begin to see me differently.
That's interesting.
Often not as interesting as when I seemed younger.
You know what? My husband who was also a psychologist, he used to say his favorite quote was, things perceived as real are real in their consequences. I perceive you through a number as being old and antiquated and over the hill and decrepit and all that stuff. It is going to have a consequence, obviously. So you perceive that, therefore you get a consequence.
It's going to make me feel older.
Well, just lie about your age. Tell them you're 54. Maybe they'll start thinking of you differently.
Well, guys out there in TV land, what brought this to mind was an act by the cloggers at the fair last week.
Is this the Athens Fair?
Mm-hmm. And they had a skit about old people. And what I want you to do is to see how you feel about the skit. So take it away.
Athens cloggers. Clog away, Athens cloggers.
It's actually Point Cloggers.
Oh, well, Point Pleasant. Close enough.
Let him cheer for him, guys. There they come. Aren't they a pitiful bunch? We told them to dress nice. It's not very often they get to come out. They've already went and tried out on a TV show and got sent back home. So we put them right back in the nursing home until today. So we'll see what they got. Here's our old people doing swinging. One more time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're the swinging seniors from Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And oh, by the way, we just got back from America's Got Talent, and we didn't do so good. We thought maybe you all could help us figure out what went wrong. Oh, excuse me.
There's a little girl in our neighborhood. Her name is Charlie Johnson, and she's really looking good. I had to go and see her, so I called her on the phone. I walked over to her house, and this was going on. Her brother was on the sofa, eating chocolate pie. Her mama was in the kitchen, cutting chicken up to fry. And daddy was in the backyard, rolling up a garden hose. I was on the porch with Charlotte, feeling love down to my toes, and we was swinging. Yeah, just a swinging. He started singing as pretty as the angels when they sang. I can't believe I'm out here on the front porch just swinging, just a
Stop! Wait, hold it. It's no wonder you got voted off America's Got Talent. That was terrible. Why don't you move your old selves off this stage and let my team come up here and show you ladies how it's done.
You started out laughing.
Yeah, well, I cannot believe. I mean, I don't know. Was she joking when she said they just got back from America's Got Talent? Did they actually go?
I think that was a recording they picked and they were dancing to it.
No, the show. That's a TV show, America's Got Talent. She said, we just got back from America's Got Talent.
She didn't really say it. It was a recording,
Oh,
I think.
well, yeah, because I think if they went to America's Got Talent, what a waste of time, money, energy, gas, and everything else.
Aw.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't compete on a show like that, period. It's they're just a hometown.
You're taking them literally. And they
Well,
were just having fun.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, hometown group, that's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with them. They
what do
just
you think about the age humor?
somewhat tasteless, I think. I don't know why. You know, that's an interesting question because why would you pick elderly people as a theme for clogging? You know, why would you do that?
Well, I wanted to break it up. They had an hour logging and they wanted one or two sets of humor.
Well, I don't know. To me, it was rather tasteless. Their outfits were terrible. They fed into the stereotype, you know, that elderly women get up and put on a house coat and never get dressed during the day, etc. And I don't know. It wasn't awful. I didn't think it was horrible. I'm not going to write to them. Just somewhat tasteless. I think they could have done a better job.
Well, the whole show is going to be on a different program, so you get to see the rest of the cloggers doing their clogging thing.
Well, you know, I always admire them because they have to have so much energy to do that. Gee whiz, you know, for any length of time. It is amazing that people can keep up that amount of, you know, working. It's really work. So
Right,
I
probably
admire
good
'em for that.
exercise.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is.
Well, now I'm going to go and let you visit the Edith Head exhibition in Lancaster.
Where at in Lancaster?
It's at,
Is it at the OU branch in Lancaster?
it's at a museum. It's like an art museum. I think
Oh.
I cut that out of the tape, the location of it, but it's on Main Street in Lancaster.
Well, I'm sure if you wanted to go, you could Google Edith Head, Lancaster, Ohio, and find
Right,
out.
and they have extended the exhibition until August the 24th. They've had such a good response to it.
Oh.
And I've heard people in Athens, talking about they got to get up and see it.
I
So-
tell you, the one I want to see, and I probably won't get to, is the Sherlock Holmes exhibit, which is at COSI, Center of Science and
Oh.
Industry, in Columbus, and it's only on through Labor Day, and I bet you I'm not going to make it. I'm a big Sherlock Holmes fan, and have been since I was 10 years old, so I'm sad about that.
Okay, let's take a look at the Edith Head exhibit.
Okay, I love fashion. I just think those, and especially I love those old movies. Whenever I see
It
one,
figures she's old, one of those old
there
people.
you go, antiquated, what all ever those words were. I love to see what people looked like. Well, I suppose I'd say my mother's era, when they used to get dressed up and wear white gloves and hats. And I remember when I was just little, really little, I went with my parents to Washington, D.C. My mother had a friend who was working in Washington. And we stayed in a hotel. Oh, I thought so glamorous, and all that. And I remember my mother getting ready to go out and wearing gloves and a hat and the whole 9 yards. And what happened to that? Now it's gone now, old, antiquated, blah, blah.
Well, across the ocean in England, they are still wearing or again wearing strange looking hats.
Well, good for them. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, I'm absolutely positive that my grandmother never went to church without a hat on.
Well, if you see
Posito.
pictures of Kate Middleton, she's got this strange thing on.
Yeah, they call
tilted
them
like,
fascinators. Little tiny hats. But they're still hats. There's something really, I don't know, dressy and kind of chic about hats, I think. And it's sad to me that we just don't do them
I
anymore.
feel kind of self-conscious if I wear a lady's hat. I don't
Yeah,
know why.
nowadays nobody does. And my dad always wore a hat, my grandfather always. So men and women wore hats up until when? In the 60s, I guess, probably sometime. Then, poof, they just went away and you never saw them again.
Well, we better take a quick trip to the museum so we get to the book review.
What museum are we going to?
Well, Athens Historical Society and Museum on Court Street, of course.
Oh, well, there you go. So you see something that strikes your fancy, you know where to go.
Sarah or Osha? Okay, I think she is. Oh, yeah. Sarah or OSHA? Oh, okay, I think she is. I have the most lucky one. Yeah.
Okay, finally, we've got our book reviewer, our program's official book reviewer, to speak on
Book.
what book?
It's called 1491, and it was written by Charles C. Mann, Mann with two N's, and he's really created something amazing, in my opinion. But before we get to that, let me tell you how I got interested in it. I don't know how many of you out there have ever heard of Kennewick Man. Have you ever heard of Kennewick Man? Well, this was a skeleton. Kennewick Man is a skeleton that was discovered near Kennewick, I think it's Washington. And this skeleton turned out to be, through investigation, about 5,000 years old, I think, something like that. And he was not genetically related to any Indian tribe. He was a completely different specimen from the skeletons that they have found that were more modern. So it created a whole hoo-ha, and this is about 20 years ago, I think they discovered him, and it created a whole hoo-ha. Well, who came over here, and when did they come, and on and so forth, which has never really been answered. We don't honestly know. We think we know, but that's how I got interested in this book, 1491, because he really tries to figure this out. And there he is right there, Charles Mann, and there's a picture of 1491. This book that I'm going to talk about today, and it talks about the Americas prior to the introduction of any non-American person or thing, for that matter, or animal. So what was it like here before the large influx of Spanish, pilgrims, etc.? And it's wonderful. I mean, he has so much research in this book to tell you what probably was going on here at that particular time, like, say, from 1000 BC to 1400 AD, in that time range. And he really, really, really tells you some things, and you find out things in this book that are amazing to you. Trust me on that. So I just wanted to read a little bit of a book review that somebody else did. This was done for the San Jose Mercury News. And they say, Mann has produced a book that's part detective story, because he really had to delve into a lot of original manuscripts to get a lot of the information that he has. Part epic and part tragedy. The tragedy is what happened to the Indians, of course, because basically he says disease, smallpox specifically, decimated the Indian population across the United States, not just where the Spaniards went, but then the Indians passed it on one tribe to another and so forth. And he estimates millions died, millions. So that when more Europeans came over here, there was just a tiny little population of Indians, because the first Europeans who came had brought smallpox and measles and killed off. Like, he thinks 90% of the Indian population was killed off prior to 1600. Okay, so that's the tragedy. He's taken on a vast topic. Thousands of years, 2 huge continents, and cultures that range from great urban complexes to small clusters of villages, a diversity so rich that our shorthand word for these people who inhabited the Americas, Indians, has never seemed so inadequate. There were hundreds and hundreds of tribes and cultures, and it's just amazing. I don't know how many of you ever been to Serpent Mound, which is right here in Ohio. That's an Indian creation, and we still don't know why, they created it. So that's just one example of something that you might find. And Salon.com, I don't know how many of you, read Salon.com, but it's pretty interesting usually. And they said, what's most shocking about 1491 is the feeling it induces, waking up from a long dream and slowly realizing just how thoroughly one has been duped. Man slips in so many fresh new interpretations of American history that it all adds up to a deeply subversive work. I like that word, subversive. deeply subversive. And so he has done something, and I don't think he started out to be subversive. But what he started out to do was to find out the truth. What's the truth about this? What happened to the Indians? He got interested in this because he took a trip to Mexico, and he saw these, Chichen Itza and these fabulous buildings. And he thought, well, who are these people? This is analogous to the Colosseum in Rome. Who are they? We never even heard of them. So he really wanted to investigate them. And as it would happen, Charles C. Mann is a correspondent for the Atlantic, Science, and Wired. A 3-time National Magazine Award finalist, he is a recipient of writing awards from many national associations. 1491 won the National Academic Communication Award for Textbook of the Year. So
Does it say what year?
It would have to be probably 2012. I think it was in 2012. So he's really put his heart and soul into this and has produced something that is unbelievable. I just want to read one little passage from it before I talk too much about it and forget. Speaking of being old, I'll forget that I was going to read this passage. He's got he has an interesting, I don't know what to call it, table of contents, but it's more than that. Some of the things he has in his table of contents are, for instance, a view from above, numbers from nowhere. So his table of contents, you kind of have to know what he's writing about to understand even what the table of contents is about. And this is one of those things that's very interesting. I mean, once you read the book and then you go back and look at this table of contents, you see how his mind works, which is not how a lot of people's minds work. He jumps from one thing to another, but when you look at this table of contents, you see how he has tied everything together. So he has quite a lot of interesting information in here, and fascinating trivia. If you're a trivia buff, oh brother, you should be thrilled about this, because you'll have so many bits of trivia from this you won't know what to do with yourself. The Incas alone, oh my goodness, he tells the tale of how the Incas were approached by the Spaniards, how they managed to not win a battle with the Spaniards, which they should have won. They outnumbered the Spaniards by, I don't know, thousands. But, it's very interesting. You'll have to read the book, but he really tells how these Indians also failed to protect themselves from the Spaniards because of a myth. You know, the Spaniards looked like the embodiment of a myth that they had in their culture. And this threw them off, you know. Oh. So the Spaniards come in there. Some of them had smallpox. This is how it all started. And also, he said, the cows and the pigs that they brought with them. I never knew this. But at this point in time in Europe, armies traveled with herds of pigs and cows. Who knew? And they would forage, you know, and when somebody got hungry, I guess, they'd butcher a pig or a cow, whatever. So that's what they did in the New World, too. I mean, that's how they did things. So they brought these herds of animals with them. And so, of course, you know, pigs, they ran off. Cows, you know, cows are probably going to stay with you, but the pigs, they just ran off in the woods and started eating everything they can get hands on. Well, then, of course...
They don't have hands.
Snouts. Got snouts. Yeah. So, of course, the Indians saw these guys eating the pigs. They're like, aha, well, they're good to eat. Well, so they got diseases from the pigs.
But they already had it on the continent, right?
Yes, yeah. So it was like a holocaust of things that happened to this in this 20 years. It was just 20 years after the Spaniards came. And then it was like a wildfire just through, you know, almost every tribe. There were very few that weren't touched by it.
Is that part what they call subversive?
No, I don't think the Spaniards had a clue in the world that this was going to happen.
Well, what was subversive?
Oh, the subversive stuff happens later.
Okay.
When the Spaniards realized that they had inadvertently killed off all these Indians, and therefore, oh, look what they had there, you know, the buildings, the wealth, the gold, whatever it was. Then they, with the remaining Indians, played politics. And the subversive part of the book is that he uncovers or tells you about all the political, with a small p, things that the Spaniards did. Well, it's Spaniards, the Portuguese, there were Brits, there were, you know, Europeans, let us say. The things that they did to try to get what the Indians had. They wanted it. Once they saw, oh my God, they didn't even know they wanted silver, but boy, when they saw it, they wanted it. So he's subversive. Charles Mann is subversive in the way that he tells us about that. So I urge you, go to the library and get this book. If you have any interest in this kind of stuff, and it will keep you reading for days, not hours, days. It's so dense with information.
Really?
I could probably report on it once a week for a month and never get through the whole, you know, it's just so loaded with information. So I hope I've whetted your appetite. 1491, Charles Mann, M-A-N-N, Charles C. Mann, and he's also published a sequel, 1493. And if you like 1491, 1493 then follows, that's the year after Columbus. You know, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. 1491 is before, 1493 is after. So fascinating stuff, folks. I love it. And I never did, nobody ever has figured out Kennewick Man, by the way.
So you read 1493
91.
also?
No, I'm not even through 1491 yet. I'm pretty much through. But that's my next big...
Is it really a long book?
Oh my gosh, yes. It's, I think, 500 or 600 pages, yeah, of densely written text. It isn't like a novel, you know, because there's so many facts and factoids and things to think about and bits of trivia. It's an amazing, I mean, it's something you could delve into, you know. You could just read a chapter. You wouldn't even have to read the whole book.
Well, that's very interesting, and I like to look into it. You don't have the checked out, right?
No, I have it on my Kindle.
Right. Well, we didn't get a chance to talk about the week and
The week.
Robin Williams.
Oh, yeah. I know, committed suicide. That was horrifying. Horrifying. And then did you hear last night on the news, they said his wife announced that he was in the beginning stages of Parkinson's. As well as,
Well, I can't
everything
believe
else.
that's what caused him to do it.
No, I don't
Yeah.
think so either. But that it could have been a contributing factor.
Well,
I don't know.
that was a new wife, right? He'd only been married about a year. I mean,
I think 10 years. He was married to
Huh?
this woman. I think he was married to her 10 years, but I'm not sure.
no, this was a new wife.
Okay. Well, I know
A month.
Oh my God. Well, I know she's not the mother of his children. She's definitely not.
He gave us the signal, I think. So you're going to be back next program, right? That'll be your last program until
Yes.
surgery.
Until after surgery.
Yeah, right.
Probably till the 3rd week in September.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next week then.
Yeah, and maybe I'll have some more fascinating factoids, even though I am ancient and decrepit.